So here's the landscape of what's happened since last night. It sounds like there is rumors that the Atlanta Falcons are supposedly talking first-round pick for Julio. Not just they want a first-round pick, but there is a team possibly engaging them in those talks. So with that being said, it may not be likely that Julio happens. But if we can get Julio, A, are you interested? And if you are not interested, then who would you prefer?
If we could get Julio, I would be interested. But I just don't see it happening because, like you said, there's there's a bunch of teams in the AFC that are going to want Julio. And if the Niners have to outbid every other team in the AFC if they want to get Julio Jones, and especially since you said the report that the Falcons are asking for a first-round pick, the Niners are not going to be willing to give up a first-round pick. They already traded their first-round picks for Trey Lance.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to at least try to give up a second or some players if they want to get Trey Lance. And I don't think the Niners want to give up players. A second, I think, but I don't think giving the Falcons a second will get it done. So if we could get Julio, I would be interested, but I just don't see it happening.
Okay. So who would you like to get then?
I would sign Golden Tate in free agency.
Okay.
To replace that wide receiver number 3 spot. He's gonna be cheap. You could sign him. He could be he's a veteran. He's leadership in that young guy for like Ayuk and Debo, and he's cheap. So that's why I would take sign Golden Tate. Julio Jones is gonna be expensive. You're gonna have to give up. They're like you said in the report. They're gonna have to give up a first-round pick, and then they're gonna have to outbid every other team in the AFC if they want to even have a chance to get Julio Jones, and I just don't see that happening. So sign Golden Tate in free agency.
Okay, Jack, what about you?
Yeah, well, it's obvious if that's the case, the 49ers are out because they don't have a first round pick, so they wouldn't be able to play in that game if that is the case. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think this is a deal that'll get done early next week because it's going to be after June 1st. So probably going to be Tuesday or Wednesday of next week we might hear something. But I wouldn't be worried with the 49ers if they traded a second and a third. That would be fine for me, especially if the third was able to come the year after. If that's something that they can work out, that'd be great. And I understand there's some limitations to that because of where they are probably looked at as where they're going to finish and where their draft slot would be and that kind of stuff. That might be part of the issue there as well. And as Amin said, having to outbid everybody. So I think it's probably a long shot, but it's definitely a guy that you want to try to bring in if you can. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next week.
Is there anybody that you think that they should look to bring in other than Julio, or do you think they should just run with what they've got?
I definitely think they need to bring somebody in. Or at least there needs to be somebody else that's getting those, as that third receiver. And it's interesting, you look at the 49ers, and they're primarily a 21 and then a 12 personnel team, so they like to sit in that personnel quite a bit. And so I could see a situation where if they don't bring somebody in, that they're going to use Ross Dwelly quite a bit more, and that it's a second tight end / third wide receiver role. He's really good. He's got good hands, but the problem that you have with Dwelly that you might get from somebody else is that he's not a yak bro. Let's put it that way. He's definitely not that. We saw that in 2019 when he replaced George Kittle. He played well, but he wasn't going to catch that 5-yard pass and take it 20. Or something like that, like Kittle did. It was a 5-yard completion and maybe a couple yards after the catch, but it wasn't a big gain usually.
Okay, all right, yeah. So listen, here's my thought on this whole rumor with Julio Jones. The wording is very, very interesting. It says that they are engaged in talks with a possible first rounder involved. Okay, so first of all, we don't know if it's for sure a first rounder. Second of all. Just because you're engaged in talks with a first rounder, that could be the Falcons saying, yeah, we want a first rounder from you. And the other team's going, yeah, we're not giving you a first rounder. So talk's over. Yeah, they could be engaged for a first rounder. I would be shocked if any team other than Green Bay, by the way, trades a first rounder for this guy. I just do not see it happening. If you look at the landscape of the NFL, the oldest wide receiver to ever garner a first round pick, it's happened twice, were 28-year-olds. So if you're going to do that for a 32-year-old Julio Jones, who, by the way, is very fantastic, but he is declining when it comes to health, and he does make a lot of money. I know it's a lot less than what we expected, or at least what I expected or thought, but it's still a lot of money. So I don't see him going for a first rounder. However, to your point, I do think if an AFC team outbids the 49ers, it's a no-brainer. You send him to the AFC. You want nothing to do with him, okay? So maybe that's the Titans, Patriots, whoever. I agree with you, though. Golden Tate, like, that's the guy. He's available. He's a slot receiver. He's a yak bro. He fits right into that. He's made a whole career off of yak. He's a little bit older. He's going to be extremely cheap. We can get him for a 1-year deal, and he's going to fit the role perfectly. So, yes, if we add a receiver, it's got to be Golden Tate. All right, let's